Hey there, I'm Terrie, and I'm the intuitive healer for folks who have anxiety and want to access their soul evolution and intuition. There's more than meets the eye here as we chat and hang out in these episodes that have spiritual, esoteric, multidimensional, somatic, quantum techniques, tools, and tips to help you get unstuck and move you forward in your day-to-day life. So join me in discovering your path to help you clear anxiety of the past, align your energy to the present, and create your new future. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Portal with Terrie Huberman. I'm really happy to be bringing you my next guest for this week. Before I introduce you to him, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you already can see him. Please, if you like this podcast, like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the things, because we're all here together to serve in some capacity, even if we're not aware of it in this now moment. But sharing can actually help activate other people into their strengths and powers. So please like, subscribe, and share. And without further ado, I wanted to do a quick introduction, and then we're going to get all into this. My next guest is Benjamin Bernstein, and he is also known as Astro Shaman. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him, and then I'm going to pass it over to Benjamin himself so he can tell you a little bit more about what he does. But he's an astrologer, he's a shaman, he's a life coach, he specializes in invocations, and he's written the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Instant Divine Assistance, your complete guide to fast and easy spiritual awakening, healing, and more. Guys, I want to introduce you to Benjamin. Hello. How's it
Hello,
going?
Terry. I'm feeling great, and I'm so honored to be on your show. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so happy to be here with you. And I wanted to ask you if you could just share a little bit about yourself so people can get to know you better, how you operate, like what your purpose is, how are you helping people, all of the things.
Well, my service is kind of summed up in the name of one of my podcasts. It's called Awaken, Heal, and Thrive. And
Nice.
that's what I try to help people do, whether I'm working with them one-on-one or if they're in my Awakening Plus membership or reading my book or listen to my podcast. Whatever I do, I'm here to help folks heal and awaken, and all that leads, of course, to thriving. To be a little more granular about that,
Mm.
um, my individual services, I am an astrologer. I've done over 10,000 sessions, and can help people that way. And I also am a shamanic healer. In that modality, I do like rattling and singing like most shamans do, but I also do internal family systems therapy style processes, and my invocations often become really central to the healing process. So whatever gets the healing done, we do within that container. I'm also a life coach if people want to work with me more consistently to go deeper faster. Beyond the one-on-one stuff, I have this membership called Awakening Plus. I've run that for years. It has hundreds of members who are in there, really speeding up their healing and awakening process. And that's fully online, about 15 Zoom events per month, an archive of getting on towards 700 archived events, which are all super powerful. So a lot of good juice in there to support people. I also reach out with 2 podcasts. I've done an astrology podcast for nearly 20 years called This Week in Astrology. For a while, it was the #1 astrology podcast on Amazon. And then I have a newer one called Awaken, Heal, and Thrive. And so
Mm.
and of course, YouTube videos. I'm out there trying to
Yes.
spread the goodness as
Yeah.
best I can. Yeah.
So you mentioned invocations, and I'm curious if you can share a little bit more about that, because in my mind, an invocation is a bringing in
Mhm.
for an awakening, but I think it can also be if you're having an awakening that can lead to an invocation. So tell me more about this invocation.
Okay. Yeah, just a quick background story. These came to me out of the blue. I was the first day of 2011. I was in an ayahuasca ceremony, and out of nowhere, the medicine just pops this into my brain.
I love it.
So, total divine inspiration. And
Yeah.
she showed me, okay, you can actually just say a few words, request your own awakening,
Okay.
and it'll happen on the spot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it worked. And I checked it with the lady next to me. It worked for her. We tried it with three other people. It worked for them. Then, of course, we were all under the influence of ayahuasca, right? Doesn't really count.
I know
but
that.
but then I started doing it with my astrology clients, and it worked for them. So I discovered even people who've never meditated a day in their lives can use
Okay.
these literally 8 words spoken to your own higher self, and then you just relax and receive. And many people, most in fact, just have an awakening on the spot,
So
that
it
they
sounds
actually are experiencing conscious union with their higher self. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you're hacking the system in a way. I mean, 8 words.
Yeah, it's a wonderful hack. But again, there's no downside. Oh, that's cheating, or you have
Yeah.
to do years of struggle to get that. But not anymore.
Yeah.
This is a tool that lets you know that, my premise is an ego cannot awaken itself
Yes.
no
Oh God.
more than you can lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's a cool idea, but it doesn't actually work, right?
Yeah.
But you can speak to the part of you that's already awakened
Yeah.
and ask it to come give you the awakening as a gift. And
So
that's how it's basically effortless, you know.
it, would that be kind of from just that facet, is that comparable to like parts therapy? If you're just going to go to that part of your awakened self and you just allow that
Well,
to,
interesting you brought that up because I do practice internal family systems therapy.
okay. Okay.
However, IFS makes a distinction between parts and self with a capital S.
Okay. Tell me more.
Any
Tell me.
any part you have is going to be a part of your human construct, and every human,
Yes.
healthy or otherwise, has dozens of parts of themselves. Some are really healthy and high functioning, some are wounded and traumatized.
Yeah.
But those metaphorically are the members of the orchestra. The conductor is self, capital S, that is the awakened part.
Okay.
That's I say what IFS calls self with a capital S. I call the higher self,
Okay.
or the soul, or the part
Hmm.
that's actually animating the body. When the body dies,
Yes.
that's the conscious that will continue and move on to other things, even
Yeah.
after the physical body drops off.
Yeah.
So that's the distinction I would make from what you said. The
Okay.
awakened part is self beyond the human personality,
Got it.
and it uses the human personality for a while as its tool for experiences in 3D. But when the human drops, the soul is in no way, it just
Effect-
moves on to the next thing it's
Yeah.
going to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because so many of my guests that I have on here and people I collaborate with, we all kind of do the same thing. It's just our approach is different. And
Hmm.
people communicate differently, which is why I'm always telling I don't know if you've encountered this, but I've encountered people in this realm, in this field, who kind of in a way see me as competition to them or whatnot. But I always
Hmm.
tell them we're all speaking the same language, I generally, but it's like the words we're using might be different and people resonate differently. And so therefore your people will be there for you.
Right.
And I love what you're saying because your approach is different than mine, even though we do the same thing. But there are people who are watching this right here, right now, that are like, oh, I love how Benjamin's approach is,
Hmm.
and it's so, so important to understand that all of this, if you want to call it non-physical energy, right? Because you were talking about the human, right? So we have the physical
Hmm.
and the non-physical energy. It's all the same thing. It's just how do we access it and how do we understand it? And that's the difference. And that's why I love how you're even talking about like the higher soul and the self. Can you tell me more? Because I actually don't know much. Personally, I don't know much about the IFS system. And it sounds like
Hmm.
that's a lot of the work that you do in your invocation work. Am I right about that?
No, they're actually separate things.
Okay, good.
Um,
Teach me, learn everybody.
so again, if I'm doing shamanic healing work, it could be rattle and sing, traditional shamanism most people think of. It could be only invocation work. We may not even touch IFS. And
Okay.
IFS is a third core modality. Now, there are times when it all sort of blends together, where I
Aha.
might combine modalities, but technically speaking, the invocations and IFS are completely different systems
Okay. And
for
you are
modality.
in terms of like where you resonate and connect and have the most passion for or with is the invocation. Do I have that right?
Well, I would say I mean, there's thousands of people out there promoting IFS. I mean, that's a massive growing field. And if I dropped out, IFS would not suffer at all for that. Okay. But the invocations came particularly to me. And although I've searched, I mean, I've been sharing these for over 13 years. and have yet to find another system that's exactly the same. There's
Theme.
things with similar aspects, but nothing does it quite like these invocations do. And that's why I wrote the book, because I
Yeah.
searched, there's nothing out there that's describing quite this system that ayahuasca gave to me.
Yeah, that's
And
me.
so therefore, I feel like if I have a mission right now, it's to spread these invocations as far and wide as possible, because I literally have never found a simpler, faster, and more effective way for DIY healing or awakening than these invocations. I mean,
That's
what could be easier than literally delegating it 100% to your higher self to do it for you, and then the personality just passively receiving it?
yeah.
And for most people, and again, like I said, I've worked with over 10,000 people in
Yeah.
my one-on-one work. And I teach to them, I said, but if you know something better, use it instead. And if you know what that is, tell me now, please. And no
Yeah.
one's ever done that. I hope there's a better system out there and that I learn it and that I can replace what the invocations with that new system, whatever it is. But so far, what I do know is, whether it's the best or whatever, I do know it's highly effective for most people. And I've worked with people who have struggled for years with effort-based paths for spiritual awakening or for healing, and have made maybe some progress. And they do this, oh my God, I just
Yeah.
had breakthrough in like 30 minutes that I've been struggling to get to for like 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's the power of the invocations. When you let the divine do it for you, there's literally no limit to what can happen.
no, and it's a direct portal. Like it sounds like you're and I could be wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong. You are downloading, or your connection, you're the conduit from the divine, and you're bringing that information to your client. You're not, or are they directly, are you connecting
No,
them?
I want them to have them their own direct hookup. I don't want them to need me at
Okay.
all.
Yeah,
No, if
yeah.
I'm leading someone in invocation, they are invoking their own higher self directly. They are
So
invoking their own healing directly from their own source. Yeah.
so you're giving them the guidance on how to do the invocate.
Right. I just
Got it.
teach them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you teach it. I love that. It's like, that's the whole, what is it like? Feed a man a fish and he'll depend on you, but if you teach him to fish, he doesn't need you.
Exactly.
I'm a huge fan of that. I think too many people make other people rely and depend on them. And the
Yeah.
problem with that is they give their power away. And
Yeah.
I just don't like that. So that's really cool. So is this something, I don't know how comfortable you feel, but is this something you can share with, like, how do people have to be when they come? I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like, how would people prepare for this? If they're coming into a session for you, how would they
Mhm.
prepare for this?
Come as you are. There's
Just
no
kind of
prep needed.
like,
Just show up and we can do
hi,
it.
or anything like that. Come as you are. Here I am. This is awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the what like, okay, what is one of your favorite, and it might be hard to choose one, so you can share more than one if you want. Um like stories or experiences that you've had with helping people get their invocation.
Um, well, again, I give their standard phrasing, like in my book, Instant Divine Assistance, the 7 or 8 word phrasings are very clearly stated.
Mhm.
And so that's given to them. If you're asking me for a story of someone who's had profound benefit from what
Yeah,
I do,
yeah, like your some
yeah.
of your favorites that you've worked with.
Well, probably the most dramatic. I actually on my Awaken Heal and Thrive podcast, there's a episode with a lady named Laura V,
Okay.
who worked with me. Now this is really intense. I'll try not to be too dramatic here, but she was she was a child sex slave for like
Wow.
8 years from the age of 5.
Wow.
Okay, and was abused and just
Yeah.
victimized in ways that are even horrible to imagine. So she came to me. She had done a few years of work, but to cope with it, she went into dissociative identity disorder, and she has many different parts of her that are very distinct personalities. And when she came to me, some of those parts were still taking her over at times. Okay,
Yeah.
so we went deep. We used invocations, we used IFS, and she's still working with me, actually. But
Good.
she healed enough. She actually came on my podcast as a guest and talked about her experiences and how profoundly these modalities had helped her. So what and so basically she's my most dramatic story. And in fact, she's healing so well. She's in my Awakening Bliss membership. She's now teaching some of the courses.
That's
She's
amazing.
come so far. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I would put it this way. If you think your problem is too tough,
yeah,
I worked with a lady who was a child sex slave for eight
yeah,
years, severely traumatized into dissociative identity disorder, and she is healing very rapidly and powerfully with the
yeah,
work that we're
yeah.
doing. Yeah.
DIT is a big one for sure, for sure. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Have you ever had like any scary experiences that scared you, where you were kind of nervous or felt maybe a little bit out of control, or something in regards to maybe what one of your clients was experiencing or anything like that?
I really, I've I didn't even start doing shamanic healing till I was in a pretty strong space. I can't say that I've ever been scared. And this actually brings up something that I've recently learned and put into practice that I would love to share in relation to what you just said.
Absolutely.
There's a wonderful book, if people are into this. The main title is called The Others Within Us
Okay.
by Robert Falconer. He is an IFS practitioner, or I think he's retired, but one of his specialties is working with dark entities.
Okay.
So, so the IFS model is say, okay, we're going to assume that you're having a challenge. It's a wounded part inside you. It's part of you that's having the problem. But there's also these things that they call critters or unattached burdens, UBs is their phrase. But
Mhm.
most people say, oh, you got a dark entity in there, some demonic being. Okay. And what I learned from his book and have now put into practice in my own work is how to, if such a being is troubling someone, there is a gentle, compassionate, and loving way
Yeah.
to get that thing off them and invite it into the light. And it
Yeah.
can choose to go into the light, or it can choose to go back into the darkness. But either way, it doesn't mess with the client anymore. The big revelation I got from this book was that the only way an entity can stay attached to you is if one of your wounded parts is holding onto
Yeah.
it. And I
Yes, yes.
didn't know that before that.
Yeah.
And so therefore I just 2 days ago I did a shamanic healing with a client, and we did exactly that. They had a really intense unattached burden, and at first it was scary and hissing and being gross, and sure enough, we got to the wounded part that was holding onto it. We unburdened the part, it released it, the thing kind of went off a distance, and then it really had no, it actually chose to go into the light. and
I
then and then and as follow up, okay, but sometimes they have other sub beings, they say,
Yeah.
okay, now all of your minions or employees or servants or slaves, I spoke to them and said, now your master's gone, you too can choose to go into the light. And they all went up into the light too. It was amazing. Yeah.
I love how no, I mean, to me, this actually is really cool that you shared that, because I was speaking with Teresa Wynn. She's another guest that I had on,
Mm-hmm.
and we had talked about the things that we recently have learned, right? Because you've been on your journey and you've had your experience, and I've been on my journey and I've had my experience. But as we ourselves have our awakenings and enlightenments as
Mm-hmm.
well. We're not exempt because we still have these earth suits that we wear. And I love how that's something you just learned, even in like the last 2 or 3 days, right? Because one of the things that I sort of learned, it was about 2 to 3 days ago. So, oh my God, what is that all about? Um, and it's in a multi-dimensional experience of duality and polarity. Is like, even within the opposites, there are opposites within the opposites, within the
Mm-hmm.
opposites, within the opposites. And that goes obviously into all these dimensions and
Well,
paradigms.
it's endlessly fractal, right?
It's fractal, exactly.
Yeah.
So even the fact that like you're learning this new thing, that you are able to now help and serve others, and I am too, it's definitely kind of really nice to know we don't know everything.
Oh my gosh. I think, I could become the most, well-informed, well-developed human on the planet and still only be a fraction of what's possible.
Right?
Even in awakening, one of the realizations I've come to, or belief anyway, is that, you know, awakening is endless. It is an infinite universe. How could there be a final awakening? Right.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I love, can I tell a quick story around that?
Please.
So I started to experience states of spiritual awakening in like 2011, 2012 in ayahuasca ceremonies. And I'd end the ceremony. I'd be in an awakened state, one with my higher self. And then I'd go to bed and I'd wake up the next morning and the awakening would be gone. Damn, I want it back. So I then went to Peru for a month, a double dieta, 10 ceremonies, staying immersed in the primitive jungle conditions. And I got a final, no, not a final. I got a abiding awakening where it didn't go away the next morning. It's never left since. Okay. And it was so ecstatic. I mean, I didn't even know bliss like that was possible. I laid there in my little hammock for a day and a half and said, I could die happy right now. This is so awesome, right? And I wondered, did I just hit the big thing? Because I can't imagine anything better than this. But it took a while, but then I had another awakening. I was like, oh, wow, even better. Who knew? And then I've had so many since then, I've lost track.
Yeah.
So awakening for me, there is no finish line to it. It's an endless journey of deeper, 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 deeper. And every single awakening gives you more capacity, more serviceability, more joy. I mean, everything just keeps getting better. And the cool thing is you can't imagine the next level. It's literally beyond your wildest dreams, but it just keeps getting better. And that's why, some people say it doesn't get any better than this, right? My motto is it always gets better than this.
It's because
So if you, yeah.
there are things we just don't know that we don't know yet. We think we know.
Yeah. The
And then
vast majority we don't know. Yeah.
and also in the frame of knowing is we know that we don't know a lot of stuff. That's still in the knowing. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that an awakening is like this one-time deal, and it is not. It is an ongoing, that's the whole thing about soul evolution. We're always uploading into the higher soul because that's
Yeah.
what's take us,
And even if you were you'd hit the greatest awakening possible for a human being, I don't think being human is the end of the line. I love the law of one channel. The law
Yes.
of one channel. We're at third density. There's 7 of them, folks. We're not even halfway through the whole cycle. We got a few billion years to go in all these more amazing, incarnative forms than the human body could ever be.
Yeah.
So even the most incredible human awakening is probably just a tiny glimmer compared to this massive spotlight of like the awakening you get when you merge back into oneness with divinity and you've done the whole universal journey. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's a never.
I have a little joke. What's the biggest room in the world?
What?
Room for improvement.
That.
I live by that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny. What's the biggest room? Room for improvement. It's endless. It is endless. All right.
Exactly.
I have a question for you.
All right.
If you had a superpower of any sort, what would that superpower be? Other than the superpowers you have, obviously, but like a new, like if you were a superhero.
I would want the ability to bless a person in a way that they were able to accelerate their journey of healing and awakening to the absolute fastest rate that served their highest good.
Oh,
Not do
wow.
it for them because
Yeah.
you have to go to enjoy. But I'd love to do whatever I could do to support their accelerated. I think back to my own journey, like, for 20 years back in Oklahoma where I lived initially. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina now. I followed a meditation school and did the best I could, but it was all, there was some glimmers of energy, but it was mainly mental gymnastics. Okay. Then I did 5 years of Vipassana Buddhism, which was just being such a
Yeah.
relief after all that mental work. And I started healing and opening my heart, and the trauma started coming up to be cleared. And I started having a little bit deeper peace and resonance in myself. And then I discovered plant spirits. I discovered San Pedro or Huachuma, which is a psychoactive cactus sacrament. And then long after that.
Oh my
Well,
God.
no, okay. No, but let me finish the story before you jump in. Okay.
Got
Then
excited.
I discovered ayahuasca. Okay. Which has been my main plant spirit ally ever since. And I've now done over 300 plant spirit ceremonies for almost 20 years. Okay.
Wow.
But the difference is when I got to ayahuasca, as I said in my book, it's like I went from the meandering stroll of Vipassana Buddhism to the warp 10 speed of ayahuasca and San Pedro. What I discovered is a single night of ceremony with these plant sacraments did more awakening and healing for me than all 25 years of that stuff I did before. It's just a massive accelerator. And
Yeah.
even if people aren't called to do psychedelic processes to heal and awaken,
Right.
the invocations themselves came from ayahuasca. They hold some of her energy in a subtle way, even
Yeah.
though you're consciously only working with your own higher self. That accelerator energy is in there. And
Yeah.
that's one reason why the invocations can help people so rapidly heal and awaken. Okay, now I got my piece out. You can ask your question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you reminded me because out here in LA, believe it or not, you drive down the street, there are San Pedro cactus like everywhere. Like it's almost
Mhm.
like the state or whatever doesn't quite realize now that if anybody's listening to this, now they're going to like knock them all down, but they don't realize that they're, it's plant medicine, but they're all over the place. And I couldn't
Oh, wow.
remember the name of them. I couldn't remember the name.
Ah,
Saying, bring me the name, bring me the name. And then I let it go. And this was 4 days ago. And then here you
there you
are,
go.
Pedro. I'm like, oh, that's
It's
what you,
weird. It's legal to own them and grow them, but as soon as you boil them down to medicine,
yeah.
that's against the law.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if out here, at least, I don't think many people know about it because then it would definitely be, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Ayahuasca is far more well known.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but San Pedro is also a very powerful. In Peru, they say there every plant has a spirit, but there are a few that are called master plant spirit teachers, and that's where you get into things like ayahuasca and San Pedro, and tobacco is also a master plant spirit if used shamanically and in a healthy way. I'm not talking Western cigarettes. I'm talking the way a South
yeah,
American shaman will use tobacco. Yeah.
yeah,
So there are certain plant spirits that just have more juice and they're kind of the top of the peak in terms of their efficacy. Yeah.
yeah. I love that. So you would just really just take them from 0 to 100 in seconds flat. Is
Yeah.
like
I
what?
want to help people heal and awaken as rapidly as they're ready to go.
Yeah,
And I do that as I can, but if I had a superpower, I'd want to do that even more. And the ability to help a large number of people do that.
at once, like fast and at once. Is that what you would do?
Well, if you go too fast, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because you're at a certain vibration. If you like an example is some people have like they'll do Kundalini yoga, right?
Right.
And they kind of force an awakening and then they kind of fritz out and their nerve short circuit and it's just too much energy all at once if it's
Yeah.
forced in a
Hmm.
way. Of course, I know there are healthy and
Yeah.
wise ways to raise the Kundalini, but some people just kind of overdo it
Yeah.
and they can suffer for years from just too much
Oh,
Kundalini
yeah.
all at once.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'd want, every person has their own proper rate, and it's not for me to determine that for them. But, what I love to do is help people. Well, let me put it this way. This is even assuming that it's Benjamin's ego running the thing, which is not how I try to operate. When I work with anyone, I'm a conduit.
Sure.
My motto is I conduit.
Right.
So anyhow, I am guided by my higher intelligence. When I work with anyone, I say, I now call your higher self to flow the information energy through me so that I'm basically the instrument of your higher self helping you. And so what I do is intuitively guided. Benjamin doesn't force anything to happen.
Yeah.
And if I even call for something to happen, even under that guidance, I'll throw in what I call a karma-free safety clause, which is to the greatest extent that serves highest good, this or something better. So nothing is ever forced from ego in my work.
Yeah.
And
For
I've
sure.
always got that safety clause in there just in case I somehow didn't get the intuitive download clearly. I'm not going to force anything to happen. I'm going to just let the higher intelligence working through Benjamin because Benjamin knows how limited he is. I mean, Benjamin is, you know, he's got, certain human abilities, but he's only a human. And
Right.
Benjamin couldn't hope to even begin to do the kind of helpful work that spirit working through Benjamin can do. And this is true for any human. There's nothing special about me. In fact, I was the slow kid in class when I was in my early years. I couldn't feel energy at all.
Yeah.
And I had to struggle for years to try to feel anything.
Yeah.
And it's only the tremendous amount of plant spirit work mainly I've done that's really sensitized me. So my philosophy is if I could do it, anybody can.
Yeah.
If as dense and insensitive as I was to energy when I started, then who couldn't if they just took a helpful path?
Do you think, because I'm hearing everything that you're saying and I'm 1000% in agreement with you and have had similar experiences, but something that just
Mhm.
sort of up to me is you have this really awesome superpower that you would like to experience, making not making, but helping somebody move through an awakening super fast so that they can get the information they need to have, this thriving life,
Well, the consciousness, really. Yeah.
conscious of it. How, and now this is like, I understand that what I'm about to say might sound limiting. I understand that, but I also sort of am like the way the third dimension of reality works, it is limiting. So
Depending
how,
on your consciousness.
depending on the consciousness, right? So you when you're working, a lot of the times with the ayahuasca leaders, they're taking a dose of ayahuasca themselves so that they
Hmm.
can frequencies. When you're doing invocation work,
Hmm.
are you also invocating yourself? I guess
Oh, of
when
course.
saying
Yeah.
it, are
Yeah.
you?
Before I start working with a client, my process is I'm going to call in my own awakened self and all of my higher dimensional frequencies so they'll work through Benjamin. Then I actually call in several dozen divine allies of love and light. I formally create a sacred container. I say, let there now be a membrane to hold in this good energy and make sure that all that enters here is of high vibration and benevolent intent. So I make sure I'm in the most awakened space I can be in,
Yeah.
and make sure that both the client and I, or the group, if I'm facilitating a group like in Awakening Plus, make sure we're held in a sacred space that's going to protect everybody in that space so they're not pestered by lower vibration stuff while we do our work. Yeah.
Yeah, because because the when we're dealing with the physical world, which we have to, like, we can't avoid it because we're in earth suits that are
Mm-hmm.
physical.
Yeah.
That's where limitations are. And so that's where, I easily get tripped up and over analytical about, how do I don't want to say bypass. Maybe I'll say bypass, but I don't actually mean like avoid. I mean, try and get around, not through avoidance, but to actually deal
Oh, yeah.
with consciousness, so at the same time, I feel like I want to say, and consciousness is obviously, not time based. Like there's no
Mm-hmm.
bounds or all that. But when
Correct.
we're dealing with a human who does want or need that quick evolution,
Mm-hmm.
your superpower is awesome. You're like using your superpower. You're like superpowering away. You're like, I got this. How does that person receive that superpower gift?
Mm-hmm.
They are in this limited, physical world. So are you,
Right.
that's where I'm like kind of stuck right now.
Okay. I think
Uh,
I understand your question. Let me see if I'm getting it. So
Okay.
basically, again, Benjamin is not forcing anything to happen.
Right.
I am the conduit through which the divine energy flows
Right.
and through which I am guided. If there's a particular thing Benjamin needs to do in
Right.
his human body, he does that thing. Okay. And because the divine intelligence is perfectly aware of whatever limitations that human is at and knows exactly the conscious they're operating at, it only brings in as much as they can deal with.
Okay.
So, for example, I tell clients when I work with them,
That's
let me finish. What?
I was just going to say, so that's going to get them to the consciousness to receive what you're giving. Like if we're going to break.
Well, that's a separate question. Let me try to answer this. So,
Yeah.
so the divine intelligence is monitoring them constantly. It's bringing in the energy of exactly what will serve them right now, given their current state.
Right.
Okay. So a person with very limited capacity will just get a little bit of energy. A person who's wide open will get a ton more.
Right.
And like in my Awakening Plus events, this happens for everyone. Every person in that group event is individually receiving exactly the type of frequencies and things that they're individually going to be best served by. That always happens. So if I'm working with a client, the energy will only give them what they're ready for. I tell people you can open 100%, even if you have an old trauma come up and you're feeling all challenging emotions. It is safe to feel it all the way
Mm,
because the divine is only going to bring up as much of that as you can handle.
right.
If the
Right.
whole trauma is too much, we'll just deal with as much of it as we can heal now. We'll get the rest later, kind of thing.
Okay.
So the divinity that works through me is aware, and it also, because I become so empathic when I work with someone, I can also feel what's going on in their inner world, and I'm just automatically aware of their inner process enough that I can help them. So I can even narrate for them what I perceive happening in the inner world. And some people who are less aware, I have to tell them what's going on in their own inner world that they can't perceive for themselves. But usually my clients can tell what's going on, and they're, oh yeah, that's exactly what you're describing. And so I'm consciously aware, and thus, because I'm aware of what's happening, I can then tell them, here's what you can do now to facilitate this process. Always, like we said earlier, I'm empowering them to do for themselves.
Right, right.
To teach them how to keep using these tools on their own and not just have a one shot, wasn't that nice, but now I'm back in the same old stuff again experience. Yeah.
So it's not, it may not, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but it may not be a one-time deal.
Well, is consciousness ever done? You know, I know some people who I consider much more awakened than me. They're still working on stuff. They still have trauma coming up.
Right.
There may be very few and far between humans who are done with all their stuff and they're just free and clear and cruising. I don't
Well,
know any people like that. I know a lot of people on the path. Okay, so
yeah,
if you're in a human suit, you've probably got more stuff to keep working on. So
right.
this kind of process goes for everybody, as far as I know.
And I'm in, like, again, I'm in agreement with you 1,000%. And that's how I operate. I think most people are, let's just say, like the typical human who lives their everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
they be thinking it's just like a one-time deal, and I'm awakened and I'm done. And I mean, like, everything you're saying just is spot on. And it's something that I've experienced personally and with my clients too. But
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking, like, in a way, the limitation of the space-time continuum, if you want to say, this may have to be an on-time an over and over again thing.
Well, let me put it this way. When in terms of what I offer, I steer people into my membership when I can, because they're for, $1 to try it for a month, or anywhere from a $19 to $20 monthly fee. They get all these resources they can use when they want, all these recorded events, all these courses, these 15 Zoom events a month that can support them very potently in their healing and awakening. Plus, they get the benefit of a sangha, a group of people they're working with repeatedly, online, and getting that group support that's so essential for the path. So I'm about, how can I not only help people heal and awaken quickly, how can I help them do it very affordably if they don't have a lot of money?
Sure,
You know,
sure,
now
sure.
some people can afford to come do one-on-one work with me, and that's obviously more expensive than the membership is. But
Always.
many people find that worthwhile, and some people work with me a lot. Some come once or twice and never come back. But my mission is, I want to democratize all this to the greatest possible degree. I mean, if even if someone just got my book for $3.99 on Kindle and learned the invocations and did them DIY, there's now, as we record this, there's almost 200 Amazon ratings on the book, and many people are saying, oh my God, this is more powerful and helpful for healing and awakening than anything I've ever done, and they've never talked to me at all. So I'm
Right.
here to spread the invocations, especially because they're such an amazing, quick, easy, and free modality, really. And in fact, there's even a video on my site. They go to astroshaman.com, and on the menu bar, it says Instant Divine Assistance. There's a video there that will teach them some of these invocations for free.
Yes,
Okay. I'll actually guide them through it on the recording.
yeah. And I'm actually glad you
So,
mentioned that, because I was going to ask you if you could share with everybody where people could find you if they did want to work with you. So
yeah.
your site is astroshaman.com, right?
Yeah. And I'll even spell that out: ASTROSHAMAN.com. And everything's linked from there. If they want to go right to that free resource, they would just go to astroshaman.com/invocations, or
Perfect.
there's that right in the menu bar. It says Instant Divine Assistance. And if there's one other link I would give them that might interest them, it's awakeningplus.com. That's awakeningplus.com. That's my membership site.
Yeah. I'm going to make
And there's a detailed info page there that just fully describes what the membership has and gives them a chance to try it for $1 for a month, and they can see what they think. Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I also have all this information in the show notes for everybody, because
Oh, thanks.
sometimes people like to see things. We were talking earlier
Oh,
about how
yeah.
people communicate. So I'm always big about hearing and seeing at the same time. So I'm going to leave all this information for anybody listening or watching or anything. Well, Benjamin, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and educating us. And I really appreciate you being here. So thanks so much for being a guest on the portal.
Oh, thanks, Terry. It's been really an honor to be your guest. I'm so grateful.
This is fantastic. And we're going to close out here. So, you guys, leave a comment. Tell Benjamin what you thought. Tell Benjamin how much he's educated you, what you've learned, all in the comment section. Like, subscribe, share this episode because there was so much wonderful information that I really think can help people. And as always, take care of that wonderful, beautiful heart of yours. Stay connected. Thanks again, Benjamin. And I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye. Well, our time in this now moment together has ended, but another now moment is on its way. Thank you so much for joining me in this human journey and listening to this podcast, The Portal with Terrie Huberman. I sure hope you're getting something out of it. I'm here to help you clear anxiety from the past, align your energy into the present, and help you create your future. My prayer for you is to find the peace and calmness in any given now moment so you can recognize when blessings are afoot and you get to choose your next adventure. Be curious and stay connected. You can always find me at terriehuberman.com. Bye now.